Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and in this, the sixth episode of Behind the Scenes, I'm going to be talking about one of the consistent themes, motifs, or graphical elements that I've been using in my weapon videos ever since the Modern Warfare 2 days. I'm going to be talking about the actual weapon silhouettes, the images of the weapons themselves, and specifically the techniques I've used to create them and otherwise portray them on the YouTube videos I've done. Now, with the Modern Warfare 2 stuff I've done and the Black Ops stuff, for the most part, I used simple silhouettes for the weapons. These are just simply the outline of the gun. There's no real detail on there to speak of. It's just the shape of the gun with no real sort of ornamentation. As far as the actual production of these assets, what I tend to use is Adobe Illustrator to produce a vector outline. These, for instance, are all the weapons from Modern Warfare 2 in a single file. And with these being vector images, I can blow them up to any size I want, I can make them any color I like, and I can use them in a whole variety of different fashions. Essentially what I do is I find a high-resolution photograph of the gun in question, and, well, simply using the pen tool, I'll actually create an outline going around the image. This process is called tracing, and basically it's just drawing a line around the image, as you would do with some tracing paper and a pencil, just in a digital form. As far as getting the actual vector images into Photoshop to produce slides and stuff like that, it's simply a matter of copying and pasting. Any recent version of Photoshop can handle vector formats, so it's very simple. And once it's in Photoshop, you can start to add stuff like drop shadows, overlays, and kind of build up an effect. For the Modern Warfare 2 slides, it was a pretty simple effect, just a flat white color overlay with a simple drop shadow. But, it's a simple effect and it works. The TV effect was a little more complex. That was principally done in Vegas. It's the good old-fashioned TV simulator with simply a green image saved out in Photoshop. Most of the work in this was done by the TV simulator effect. Otherwise, it's just a very simple image. A simple basic silhouette. The Black Ops weapon slides were a little more complex, but still based on the same basic principle. It's a simple weapon silhouette with a few effects added in Photoshop. In order to get the glow effect, I used a linear light blend mode, and there's an outer glow in there and an inner glow in there and a stroke just to give it a bit of an outline. Again, all this stuff, it's kind of derived from experimentation and just playing with the image until it looks like the effect that I'm after. Now, for the weapons of Modern Warfare, I kind of took things to the next level. The weapon graphics here were a little bit more work, but I think the overall effect is a bit more impressive. I've had quite a few people sort of ask me, how do you get the X-ray effect on the weapons? How did you get that effect? How did you do this? That sort of thing. So it's those sort of queries that kind of, prompted this particular topic. Well, the process begins, of course, in Illustrator. That's where I sort of originate most of this graphics work. I'm not going to lie to you, this is quite a long process. The illustrations probably take about 1 to 2 hours to do. But the process is, again, very simple tracing. We start out with the weapon render image, which is a relatively high-resolution source. It's good enough for the level of detail that I require anyway. From this source image, much like the older weapon guides, the first thing I do is I create a pure silhouette. Very simple, just a single solid colour. And then from this I start to add some detail. On another layer I add the shadows, just simple, dark areas basically. And then in addition to that, the last part is the line detail. The line detail takes the longest time. Essentially, for every single detail on the gun, I have to trace the detail and sort of bring out these elements of the gun. So every rivet, every carry handle, every sight, every little tiny detail has to be drawn, essentially. But this does make for quite a detailed looking drawing. This is fairly basic line work. It's not the neatest, but then it doesn't have to be because we reproduce it at a fairly low resolution. Once the trace is done, I'll take it into Photoshop and then layer by layer, element by element, I'll build up what will be one of the final slides and also the thumbnail for the video as well. So the line effect, I'll colour them green, and I add an outer glow. I also add a 2-pixel mosaic to give it kind of a pixelated feel. I use the solid silhouette trace just to lighten the actual interior of the weapon slightly. And on top of that, I layer the shadow effects, which just brings out some of the light and dark elements and kind of gives the gun a little bit more depth. And really, it's just those 3 layers as far as the gun's concerned. Just the fill, the shadow, and the lines. Everything else is just really part of the background. The background consists of quite a few layers. Starts off with a solid matte, and there's a couple of gradients in there just to give it a sense of depth. The rest of it's details like the 4 box corners, and then scan lines, and then there's fake highlights to make it look like a screen, and there's a couple of adjustment layers just to adjust the colours, and then finally the vignette to darken the edges of the screen. And then there you have it. That's the final image. That's pretty much what I use for the thumbnail. It's formatted slightly differently. I enlarge the text, get rid of some of the detail, and reposition everything so it fits within the thumbnail bounds a bit better. As for the actual edit process, what I'll do is I'll save out each of the layers as a separate image, effectively. This is the matte. I also save a pure white version of this just for the flash effect. Basically, I do 2 quick linear wipes over that to give it that kind of flash effect. Then the line work and the shadows, again, separate layers for editing. So as far as the composite, you've got the vignette on top, then I have a scanline overlay. The caliber is the secondary text, and there's the actual name of the weapon, which has a linear wipe on the in. I believe that layer is the white flash, number 5. Number 6 is the 4 corners, the bounding box. You've also got an overlay for the Xbox Ahoy Presents at the start there. The lines comes in on this layer. These are all additive layers, incidentally. So that's part of the effect there. The shadows are there. You'll see I've pulled down the opacity on that slightly so they're not fully opaque. Then you've got the fill there, and then at the very bottom there is the background. Also here you'll notice the actual book opening clip, and then on top of that there is a fairly straightforward overlay of the line art, which forms the book inlay. So that's it. Those are the elements that form the intro for the Weapons of Modern Warfare. I'd have liked to have gone into more detail about the actual process of tracing the weapons, but really there aren't too many secrets there. It is just a simple case of basic line work with the pen tool. It's laborious, but there are a few shortcuts. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Xbox Ahoy, and until next time, farewell.